Is it worth it to buy a house that has a pool if you're moving to Florida? Stay tuned and I'm going to tell you all about that. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into my channel Living in Tampa, where it's my goal to show you everything you need to know about eating, sleeping, playing, and living in the greater Tampa Bay area. Today's topic is going to be, should you buy a house with a pool? Most people when they move to Florida have that thought in their mind that, hey, I'm going to get a house with a pool. I've got the great weather. I want to be able to spend time just relaxing, enjoying the outdoors. And should I buy a house with a pool is a question that I get from a lot of people when they're moving to Tampa. So I thought I would go into this a little more detail for you guys today. I've got a beautiful backdrop here of my pool at my house, so obviously I thought it was worth it to buy a pool, but I'm going to kind of cover the pros and cons of that for you so that you can make your own decision. When we first moved to Tampa, we had 4 young children, and it was important to us to have a pool so that they would have a nice place to enjoy outside, be able to have their friends over. We wanted to be that house, that had all the kids come to that house, so that I kind of knew what my kids were doing and where they were and who they were with, kind of thing. And I thought having the pool would make that much more enticing for them to have their friends over, and it did work. And when they were young, they spent a ton of time in the pool, and I felt like we definitely made that right decision. Now, fast forward, my kids, my youngest just turned 17. My boys have graduated high school. One graduated college, thank the Lord. The other one's almost about to graduate, so we are almost empty nesters here. And I think now, if I was moving to Florida, would I buy a house with a pool? And I think maybe not. I don't know. My husband and I don't spend a whole lot of time in the pool. Unfortunately, I wish we spent more time in the pool, but we don't. My kids, as they got older, spent less and less time in the pool, and then it became more of like a chore and a hassle because, truth be told, I'm the one that does most of the pool care for us. My husband works a lot of hours, and it's just easier for me to do it. Luckily, we have a salt pool. So there's chlorine pools and there's salt pools. So there are pros and cons to both, but the main pro in having a salt pool is that there's a lot less maintenance that you've got to do. You just throw salt in it every once in a while, to be honest, most of the year. Now, when it rains a lot in our rainy season in the summer, you do have to take the water to be tested and spend, some money to deal with how diluted the pool water has become from all the rain. So I would say, I have to add stabilizer, or I have to add acid, things like that. But overall, I would say that I don't spend a whole lot of money on pool maintenance in having a salt pool. So I think that's a major pro to having the salt system. So obviously another major pro of having a pool is, just enjoying it. The sound that it makes. We've got a nice waterfall on ours, and I love just to sit out here and listen to the sound of the waterfall, and it's very relaxing. So we do spend a lot of time on our back porch, and having that water sound is, like I said, super relaxing, and that is something that we get a lot of enjoyment from. So I wouldn't say the pool is a complete waste at this point, but as far as getting into it, we don't get in a whole lot. Now, we do get into our hot tub.
Can I get a hot tub?
Quite a bit, which is right behind me now. And that's nice to enjoy on the few cool evenings that we have here in Florida. But even so, my kids like me to turn it on even if it's not that cold. We're really wimps. The longer you live in Florida, the warmer you need the pool water to be for you to be able to tolerate it. So even if it's been in the 90s and the pool water's only, in the high 70s, they won't get in. So we have to turn the heater on, or we have to turn the hot tub on so that they can jump back and forth between the two. Of course, that does use a lot of electricity, so that would bring me to one of the cons of having a pool is you will have a much higher electric bill because you do have to run that pool pump, on average 8 hours a day. I would say in the summer you're going to run it a lot more hours. In the winter I cut hours back to probably only about 6 hours a day. But still, you're running that pump, nonstop. They are becoming more and more efficient and using less and less energy, but nevertheless, that is an energy sink, and it is an additional cost that you're going to incur. And as I just covered, if you've got a salt pool, you're not going to have a whole lot of other costs, like with chemicals and upkeep like that. A lot of people try to say that it's very expensive to maintain a pool. I disagree with that. I don't think it costs much at all if you have the salt system, but yeah, the electricity is definitely adds to your monthly expenses. So another big pro to owning a pool, I think, is resale, of course. So homes are definitely much more desirable in Florida if they have a pool, and especially if they have the pool cage like we have here, as you're seeing behind me. I do get asked the question a lot, like, why do all the pools have a pool cage in Florida? Well, I'll tell you, it's twofold. Mostly because of the bugs. It is Florida. You do get a lot of mosquitoes, and at night you're not really going to be able to sit out here at night and enjoy the pool without having a screen or a lot of bug spray. The other thing is, if you're in an area that has a lot of vegetation and trees around, it does help to keep your pool a lot cleaner. We live in a newer community with not a whole lot of big trees or anything like that, so we don't get a lot of debris in our pool. I don't think we would anyway, even if we didn't have a screen. But as some of the more mature communities that have like big oak trees, things like that, it can be really a challenge to keep your pool clean, especially if you don't have a screen. So that's another, positive to having a pool screen. They do require some upkeep. We do have to pressure wash it probably once a year, and every now and then you will get a broken screen, but for the most part there's not much to taking care of them. The other thing with a pool, as far as the maintenance goes, is you do have to pressure wash your deck from time to time as well. We have pavers out here, and I'd say probably every couple years we do have to pressure wash those. And then when you pressure wash, inevitably you have to put more sand in between the pavers because you get a lot of the sand out, and so it's quite an ordeal. We used to do it ourselves when we first moved here, but the last few times we've had it done, we just paid somebody to do it because it is quite the undertaking. But it does pay off to keep your area looking nice and clean. But yeah, definitely one of the major pros, again, getting back to my point, is resale, because your home is definitely going to be worth a lot more if you have a pool. It's going to be a lot more desirable because, again, like I said, people, when they're moving to Florida, most people do want a pool. And especially right now in this crazy hot market that we're in, if I put a 4-bedroom, 3-bath pool home on the market, it is going to disappear fast. Whereas if I put, just a 4-3 without a pool, in this market, probably still would disappear pretty fast, but definitely not as fast as the pool home. And yeah, you're going to get that added value on your appraisal, for the pool, and the added market value for sure. So yeah, and back to the cons of owning a pool is, yeah, I mean, you have the maintenance costs. Like I said, those aren't quite as high on a monthly basis as I think a lot of people make them out to be, but you do have to keep in mind eventually you are going to have to replace the Marcite in the pool. That can be quite expensive. It's going to be several $1,000s, and if you're buying a home, an older home where the pool's been there a while, that might be an expense that you're going to need to budget for. Inevitably, you're going to have your pump go out over time. Those are getting more and more expensive as they get more and more efficient. And probably I would say at least every year, maybe every 2 years, we buy a new filter. The filter that our pool uses is about $100. So, there is that cost involved, and you have valves that'll go bad from time to time. But, it's nothing really that breaks the bank, other than like the Marsite is going to be the main thing. So if you're putting in a new pool, my advice to you would be don't do it unless you're going to be in that house for a very long time, because it's not going to pay off as far as resale goes. You know, a new pool to put in, looking at a pool similar to the one that's in the back of me right now, we found out that the people who owned this home before we bought it paid almost $70,000 for this pool, because it does have the paper deck, it's got the waterfall, it's got the hot tub, it's got the cage. So all of that, you know, together came up to almost $70,000. Even your most basic pool is probably going to be at least $30,000. And on an appraisal, even a pool like this might get half of that if you're lucky and the appraiser's feeling generous. So if you're not going to be in a home for a really long period of time, it would not make sense to buy a home that has room for a pool and add a pool. If you're planning, you know, to buy it as your retirement home, or you're going to stay there until your kids are grown and move away, you know, long term, it would definitely be worth it, because you'll get to have all the enjoyment out of it, and it will add that value to your house when you go to sell. But if you're only looking to be in a home for, you know, 3 to 5 years, definitely would not be a wise investment to add a pool, in my opinion. So that's kind of the pros and cons of buying a house that has a pool. I don't think that there's anything else that I forgot. I hope that you know, clears that up for you. I think definitely if you know, have the budget for it, and especially if you have children that are going to be enjoying it, it makes sense to have a pool home in Florida. I mean, what else is there to do in the summer? You're either going to go to the beach or you're going to hang out in your pool. So it is nice to have one at home, and I think I'm going to make more of an effort to spend more time in my pool now that I've made this video. I hope that this video has answered your questions about whether or not you should buy a pool home when you move to Florida. Speaking of moving to Florida, if you are going to be moving to the Tampa area, please reach out to me. You can send me a call, shoot me a text, drop me an email. However you want to communicate with me is fine. When it comes to moving to Tampa, I've got your back. If you got any questions, go ahead and drop them down below in the comments section. I'll be sure to respond to them as quickly as possible. And do me a favor while you're there, hit that subscribe button, ring that little bell so that you'll be notified each and every time that I release a new video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.